1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Self-awareness is a superpower. My name is KathyLaDonna. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. Pallas in your psychology, aka natal chart, talks about your negotiation tactics, like how you go about negotiating things, how you go about getting your way. See, Pallas is an asteroid and it represents the divine feminine energy that exists within all of us. And within men, it shows, their approach when it comes to negotiating. And depending on what's going on with Pallas in your natal chart will determine if you are negotiating in a way that works for you, or if your negotiation style completely goes against you. If you realize that, whenever it's time for you to express yourself and get your way, you always get the bottom end of it. You want to take a look at Pallas and see what's aspecting it and what's going on with it. Pallas is an asteroid discovered in 1802. Pallas is one of the larger asteroids. It was discovered right after Ceres, and I think it is the third largest asteroid. The story about Pallas Athene, or Pallas Athena, is that basically Athena, daughter of Jupiter, basically wasn't conceived like any other god or even human. Basically, she cut herself out of her father's head and came out fully dressed in armor and ready to fight. The way how Pallas Athena, the name came together, the way how Athena took on the name Pallas, stories are told that her best friend was Pallas. And they were basically sparring together, like they were fighting, but the fighting wasn't a real fight. It's like a spar, like a practice. And basically they were sparring together. And one of the stories said something like Jupiter or Zeus didn't like the fact that his daughter appeared to be losing, or Pallas was getting the upper hand in the battle. So he intervened and Athena accidentally killed her friend. Normally, I guess when you're practicing, you'll throw the spear and they'll duck. And based on what Zeus did, Pallas did not duck, and instead she was wounded and killed. And in honor and grief of her friend Pallas, Athena took on the name Pallas, and that's why she's known as Pallas Athene or Pallas Athena. So within all of us, that dynamics exists within all of us. So when it comes to our negotiation tactics, that story there represents how, in life we'll go too far when it comes to being strategic and getting our way. And we'll learn a valuable lesson from going too far. And from that valuable lesson, we'll know how to do things better. To understand Pallas on a deeper level, you want to take a look at her and her brother Mars. Mars energy represents basically going to war, being brutal, being violent, and just winning at all costs. It's messy, it's scary, it's traumatic. Where Athena's approach to battle is strategic. That's that feminine energy within all of us. And feminine energy is introverted energy. It's when we go within ourselves and we gather our resources, our inner resources. We get a better understanding of things. Where masculine energy, Mars energy, is that direct approach. It's outward. You are energized from making moves and taking action. So Athena's story with Zeus or Jupiter, how she cut herself out of her father's forehead, pretty much tells me that basically when it comes to that aspect of ourselves, it's like it's already ingrained within us. And her relationship with her father, it's like she was a daddy's girl. So being a daddy's girl, it's almost like there's a need to prove herself when it comes to, her approach to battle, war, and whatnot. So wherever Pallas is in our natal chart, the house and the sign, the approach that we take when it comes to negotiating and getting our way will have a lot to do with our daddy issues or our relationship with our, the masculine figure who raised us. If your mom played your dad, then basically that's that strong influence there. Pallas in our natal chart talks about our ability to deal with aggression, but dealing with aggression in a way that isn't violent. It talks about wisdom. And of course, wisdom comes through experience. So, the story that I told with her, accidentally killing her friend, which will represent us basically taking things too far when it comes to war or negotiating. That reminds me of the tarot card 5 of Swords. On 5 of Swords tarot, I had to stop to get the tarot card for you guys to give a proper example. So on the 5 of Sword tarot, if you notice, there's one person with everybody's sword. So he got all 5 of the swords. And the number 5 in numerology is a number that's good with communication. Like the number 5 energy is not almost. The number 5 energy has the ability to be great salespeople because these people can sell you the sun, because they're so good when it comes to, it's like these are your smooth operators. They're good when it comes to communicating and can communicate to just about anyone. So that Pallas energy within us when it comes to negotiating, basically wisdom plays a big part, our experience. And with Pallas coming out of her father's head in armor and fully dressed shows that basically this is wisdom that it's like we were born with this wisdom. And of course, over time, it can only get better. And intelligence is important here, and creativity, because when we are negotiating, there is a level of creativity that's involved. And that's what makes the number 5 and the number 3 such good communicators, because it's almost like they're channeling energy through whenever they're communicating. It's like if we go about things in a concrete way, it's like that doesn't really help the situation that we're in, because basically new situations require new ways of being depending on who you're dealing with, what their personality is like. It's like, say for example, you're communicating with someone who is very alpha in their way of being and just, their existence on a whole. The communication style that they're going to respect is something that's a bit more direct. It's almost like playing chess, the king position, and that energy exists within males and females. So when you're speaking to someone like that, you're going to be direct, because anything that isn't direct is going to seem like you're being deceptive. Where if you're dealing with a queen type energy, more feminine, introverted, laid back, calm energy, you're going to not necessarily be indirect, but you don't want to be too brash and just harsh and too direct, I guess, with your speech, because it can feel like an attack. So that's where our whole negotiation comes in. And Pallas also helps us to understand our health. Like wherever Pallas is in your natal chart, if you are malnutrition and not getting enough nutrients when it comes to your intake and your diet, Pallas and the sign that it's in and the house that it's in is going to give you basically an example of why. Like, let me give an example. Say Pallas is in your fifth house, and say Saturn is there or whatever, or Capricorn or an Aquarius, because Aquarius energy is connected to Saturn, because Saturn was the original ruler. If you are deficient in anything, or your health isn't in the best, if you're deficient when it comes to your metabolism or things like that, you're going to notice challenges having to do with your bones and your blood circulation, because Leo rules the heart. The heart talks about our blood circulation, and Saturn talks about our bones. Even though Capricorn is going to touch mainly on the knees, like Aquarius is going to tap into the ankle. So basically, say your diet isn't working for you, and because your diet isn't working for you, it's affecting your blood circulation. And because your maybe you're not making enough red blood cells or whatever that's going on within you due to, whatever that's going on within you, those areas, those things are going to stand out, and it's going to be quite obvious. And that's the beauty of astrology. Like, it's not just psychology, but it reflects the body and everything else. It's back to that saying, so above, so below. What the planets are doing has everything to do with what's going on within us. And what I love about it is that once you become aware of these things within yourself, whatever that wasn't working before, like, you can apply what's necessary to make it better. Like, say, for example, you have Pallas in Aries in the 10th house. So that means when it comes to, dealing with business, you're very direct, you're harsh. And in a way, this could really ruin good business connections. So instead of making friends, you're making enemies with everyone. Where before you never quite understood why is it that whenever you go into negotiation, people shy away. People might just give in because they're scared. And if they're confident within themselves, you might end up having some kind of a battle. Never quite understood why. And now that you understand why, based on these astrological placements, you can tone it way down and you can more soften this energy, because the Aries is going to make it, very direct in your face and seem like, you're beefing with people when you're not trying to war with anyone. And then in the 10th house, you're seen that way. But then keep in mind the 10th house has Saturn energy there. So it's going to make you seem even cold and as if you're acting like people's father or their authority figures. And, when really deep down, say your moon is in Cancer, you're really not that kind of person on the inside. You're very caring and nurturing and loving. But your style when it comes to negotiating, it's just so harsh and direct, and you're completely misunderstood. But you yourself isn't even aware that this is how you're negotiating, because it's embedded within you. And when I say negotiating doesn't have to always do with just business. Like, children negotiate. Like, you'll see two children negotiating over the remote control. I'll let you play if you let me do this, where some kids are better than other kids when it comes to negotiating. So they will end up with the remote control all the time. Like, I remember one of my brothers used to basically trick my younger brother to give him, like, basically, I don't remember exactly how it went, but say, for example, one has a $10 bill or something, like, basically exchange bills with them. But the younger one would think that he's winning and he's getting more money, when really, because it's a solid bill, he doesn't realize the value of it, and he'll exchange. But it's the smoothness, that smooth operator energy. It's the smoothness of how the other one negotiates that convinces him that, yeah, he's doing a right thing with this negotiation. So learning more about this placement will help you to get what you want in life. It'll help you to have a smoother exchange. And it will probably also help you to not get taken advantage of, because I can easily see people with Pallas in the 12th house or Pallas in Pisces energy per se, will end up in situations where it's like, when the negotiation is all over, you're like, wait, like, how comes I'm the one who just sold this car, but like, they got the car and they got it for half price? Like, how did that even happen? And it won't be until something is said and done, you're sitting back and you're like, wait a minute, like, where's all my money? Or how do I keep ending up here? It's like Groundhog Day. You keep ending up in the same situation over and over again. You feel like people are robbing you, but you can't prove how they're robbing you. It's your negotiation style. What I love about Pallas is that even though this is feminine energy, introverted energy, I love that it's so opposite from Mars, for the simple fact that, and speaking from personal experience, like I have Mars in the first house. So basically there's a level of urgency in everything that I do. And sometimes it could be a bit intimidating for other people who are, you know, dealing with me, because it's like, I need things to happen and I need it to happen now. And it could come off a bit pushy and just make people uncomfortable, like I said. And now that I'm understanding Pallas energy, it's like I'm learning to basically, like they say, catch more flies with honey. It's like I'm learning to relax in that feminine energy, that divine feminine energy, and get things done faster and get more out of situations instead of being so direct and pushy. It's like people are more able to comply. They're more willing to comply and help if basically they don't feel like they're being forced. Where Mars energy is going to force you, do this and do it right now. Where Pallas energy is going to sit back and observe you, see what it is that you need, because that's what feminine energy does. Feminine energy wants to serve. So whether you are a male or a female, it is important for you to embrace the feminine energy within you. But feminine energy wants to serve, so it observes and it observes whatever it is that you need, and it gives you what you need, because in return of you getting what you need, you're going to be willingly and openly give in return, because basically you're not being forced. You're doing it according to your own will, so it feels good. So with that being said, like, you know, like I mentioned with strong Aries, me having strong Aries within my chart or whatnot, and where my Pallas is, and if we share it, you'll know watching the videos. Like before, my negotiation style just didn't work for me. It's like people who were passive, they would give in, but then I would end up like in a power struggle with people who weren't. And in a female's chart, depending on how your Pallas is aspected, this might, you know, it will be good for business when you're being direct and shrewd and making things happen. But at the same time, you know, sometimes it'll create more enemies than it does friends. And Pallas in a man's chart, depending on how it's aspected, can cause this man to, you know, basically dwell more in the feminine energy when it comes to negotiating. And I think it's a beautiful thing when a man is balanced with both masculine and feminine energy, because, you know, as humans, both energy exists within us. You know, I think it's a beautiful thing. It just makes a man complete, just as it makes a woman complete when she basically is balanced within all that energy. But say a strong Pallas in a man's chart, depending on how it's aspected, can cause him to basically, how would I put it, like, do himself a disservice when it comes to his negotiating. And like I said, negotiating is what we do daily. You know, he'll always find himself in the position where he feels like he's taking advantage of, where it's like his masculine energy feels suppressed. And understanding Pallas within his natal chart will help him to turn that around and get what he wants out of his interactions and communication. You guys, so this is my video for you about Pallas Athena. If you really enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because with the analytics, I noticed that majority of the people who show up and keep showing up for these videos haven't subscribed to this channel. It's like, what are you waiting for? Like, you're gonna come back, and I look forward to seeing you back. If you guys are still here with me, please drop me a brown heart in the comment box below. I would love to hear from you. Love yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.